My name is Eric Brown. My name of my firm is PCA, and Nidhi John is here with us tonight. She's really should get most of the credit for this project. She's doing all the work. So we're going to go through the presentation, and maybe if Bill, I don't know if you want to say anything, or Vinny, if anybody wants to say anything before or after or in between, let me know. We can just, you want to start?
No, sure. I just need to give an introduction.
Sure, thank you.
So I'm Vinny Piccirilli. I'm the District C counselor, and this is in District C, which I represent. So this is a community meeting. It's not a public hearing. The purpose of this meeting is for the developer to get input from the community about what they like, what they don't like. So just when you go through the presentation, think about what you like about the project, what you don't like about the project. Once they have this meeting, then they will submit it to the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit. There'll be a public hearing at the Planning Board, and then it'll go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, who's actually the special permit granting authority, who will issue the special permit, and there'll be another public hearing. We created these community meetings because people felt it was hard to have sort of a conversation with the developers, community and the developer in the public hearing because they're very sort of formalized. So we created this requirement for a public hearing, for a community meeting, so you can have sort of that discussion outside the public hearing. So anyway, my job was just sort of pick a date in the meeting room to facilitate this happening. So I'll just turn it over to the gang here. And go ahead.
Also, Ted Saracino is the owner of the project. In case later when we have questions, Ted may get involved. And when we do that, if there's a lot of people who want to ask questions, what I've done before is like start on one side of the room. That way we make sure everyone gets heard and there's no chaos, or orderly. So we'll try to do that when the time comes. So one thing I'll just start off by saying is that we've worked with planning staff. We've had at least 3 meetings, and so we're getting input from them. We've had a developers conference. We've met with DPW and the fire and the police and all the various offices in town, so they're familiar with the project. In terms of zoning regulations and requirements, we meet all the regulations. We're not asking for any variances. We're not asking for it to be bigger or taller or wider or anything like that. Everything is within the zoning regulations. And we still do need approval from the planning board and the zoning board. So we'll get started. This is just kind of giving you can everybody see this clearly? Should we turn off lights, or is this good enough? Good enough? Okay. So just, kind of acknowledging where the site is right here, across from the town hall. It's a beautiful existing condition there. Everybody knows it. The 24-hour store. We're hopefully going to improve the quality of the site. Some pictures of the neighborhood. Some of the adjacent buildings across. This is looking west. This is our site. I'm sure you're familiar. This is looking east a little bit. Next to us, town hall, library, and the site looking towards the south. Did I say something wrong?
Oh, no. We're noticing that's when our fence pieces were down. The picture was taken. We put them back up.
Over here?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
That's all right.
Just chattering.
All right. I don't want to get anything wrong. I don't want to have any mistakes. If I do, I would rather be corrected, frankly, than make a mistake. So this kind of shows some of the buildings in terms of design that we looked at in terms of massing and detailing and location relative to the street. We think it's important that the building becomes another building in a collection of similar buildings in the neighborhood. There's a lot of nice buildings in town. There's mid-century modern buildings. There's some older buildings. There's a lot of brick. There's a lot of beautiful detailing. The town hall and the library are particularly nice. So you'll see in the design of our building, which is here, that we didn't want our building to compete with those buildings from a design standpoint. We wanted them to kind of blend in and become a part of the collection of buildings of similar sort of style and size. So this is looking west, and this is our building here. So you can see that we're sort of just we're helping to reinforce the street edge. One of the things in the design guidelines, and this is looking back towards the east, this is the building here, the Watertown design guidelines talk about creating street edges, and with the two buildings to the west of us, we're sort of the next piece, starting to create that street edge. Design guidelines talk about proportions of the width of the street to the height of the buildings, and the building is allowed to be 5 stories, so the building is going to be 5 stories, and that creates that space, that public space, that starts to feel intimate and appropriate for pedestrians. So this is the ground level. This is Main Street. This is the curb cut. The existing building kind of sits right in here. So that's getting torn down. The small commercial space is here, about 1,200 square feet. This is our lobby. So the building above, where the residential part is actually above us. See this dotted line here? This is where the residential building occurs. And so we have 30 parking spaces at grade. And then you see we have other items like the stairs that come down, and we have bike storage, some green space in these areas here, access to utility rooms and so forth.
What's right between?
All right, so we're gonna, I'm sorry,
Questions related?
all respect. So we're gonna do all the questions after. Is that okay? All right, okay. Thank you. So as we go up, there's 4 floors of residential, combination of studios, 1-bedrooms, and 2s. And as you'll see in some of the massing drawings, the building actually steps back in the rear. And that's a zoning regulation that is required. This is the roof plan. We're going to get into some of our discussion about environmental sustainability and the things we're doing for that. But this is the area that we're going to be placing solar panels. These are the condensing units, standard condensing units for the units, for the residential units. These are the terraces stepping back. You can see we're held away on all sides from the property line. Except this building does come to the property line, it touches it, and that kind of comes right in with that other adjacent retail building to create the street edge. So this is basically the data sheet that gives the information about the project from a number standpoint. Again, we meet the FAR, which is the floor area ratio. We're below the allowed. We meet the height. We meet the number of stories we're allowed. We meet the open space requirements. And this shows, this is the back. This is looking towards the east, the side of the building. From the property line here, there's a requirement that the building steps back. And as we'll show you in another slide, we've made great use of that space in the step back. So this is the sheet. So there's 20% open space requirement. So we have open space sort of scattered through the site. We have a piece back here where we can sit on a seat wall, enjoy that. Piece here, and then these the terraces for the residential units. You can see there's quite nice ameliorated spaces with plantings and furniture to kind of soften this back space, this back edge. The town requires LEED Silver certifiable projects, so we're meeting all of those requirements. This is going to be one of the first projects that also has there's a new solar requirement in town, so we're complying with that. I won't go through all the things we're doing, but we're doing lots of things: stormwater, energy usage, light pollution, water usage. We're going to have a very green building, and that's not just words. It's required by the town. It'll be submitted. It'll be monitored, and we're excited about that. Materials, actually, where did we go? I'm going to talk about the building design for a second and then go back to the materials. So, as I said, we wanted the building to feel like a part of a collection of mid-century modern buildings that are in town. And so we did that by the use of nice materials, nice quality brick, precast detailing, some solid panels here that work their way back to the side of the building. And You know, the proportions of the windows are friendly, they're nicely proportioned, nicely detailed. So again, the building is not screaming, look at me, I don't have 40 colors on me, I just have 2 or 3 colors. And we think that's a nice sensitive way to join into the neighborhood. At the grade, this is the retail space. We're going to use some wood here to soften it up, benches, we're doing tree plantings, we're going to have some bike racks, and this is the entrance in here to the parking area. And we have a fence here screening the transformer. So back up, we actually also have some actual samples of the material sitting on the table there. But this, you can see the brick that we chose, I think is a great choice because it has slight variations in the color. So it kind of breaks down the mass when you're using large fields of brick. But then the style of the brick is crisp and clean, so it has a modernist feel. And this would be the color of the panels, the solid panels. We have precast. This looks a little lighter than the actual sample, I think, in this. And this would be the wood at grade. So you can see some examples of that. This is a little bit of the flavor we're going after, you know, in some of our open space areas. So this was the without and with. These aren't exactly the same angle, but this is looking back to the east, without and with. So we think it really just kind of blends right into the neighborhood nicely with a nice quality building. A little bit closer up. So these are the straight on elevations. You know, these are more diagrammatic than anything else, but it kind of gives you, you know, here's exactly what it looks like from across the street. But like these side elevations, you would never experience this view really from this far away. But you can see how this is the parking under, where it steps back. This is from the rear. Hello. The other side. Okay, so this is our landscape plan. And our landscape architect is not here tonight. So I won't get into too much of this, but you know, the basic idea is that, you know, we're using quality plantings that are going to be durable, appropriate for the neighborhood, appropriate for the climate. We're going to be working with DPW. We're going to replace the sidewalk, put in benches, some new trees, planters, this other green space back here. We have our bike racks. What else is notable? That's mostly it. You know, I guess I'll just say that, you know, there's some existing walls back in here, and we're probably going to have to rebuild some of those. We want to make sure that we don't skimp on the quality of the walls that are around the perimeter, so everything is kind of neat and clean when we're all done. This is the sheet with some of the examples of the plantings. I'm not a planting expert, but I believe these are appropriate plants for the site. Okay, so next we have our traffic engineer is going to come talk a little bit, and after that we can, I guess, open up for questions. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Dan Mills. I'm a traffic engineer with MDM Transportation Consultants. I'm just going to step through a couple slides tonight. We've sort of already been orientated to the site, and I'm sure all of you are familiar with the exact location. This just highlights the sidewalk pedestrian accommodations on both sides of the roadway with crosswalks in close proximity to the site. We also have some bus stops. This is really what's called a smart growth project. Really provides housing in an area where there's access to transit and shopping activities and things of that nature. Have a lot less dependency on an automobile trip or automobile ownership. So again, these opportunities allow that smart growth aspect of the project to be highlighted. And also at this location, south of the project, is the Charles River Greenway path. This is really the nuts and bolts of our traffic study that was conducted. We look at the existing activity along Main Street, at the site itself relative to how many cars come in and out today, the driveway across the street of Town Hall, And one of the critical aspects of the traffic study is to identify how much traffic is going to be generated by 34 units, 34 housing units. And we reference industry standard document called the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, and just our experience in other multifamily housing units that we have as our day-to-day work. There are 34 units. We don't expect everyone, similar to probably your households, everyone to leave at the exact same time in the morning and come back at the exact same time in the afternoon. So we don't expect 34 cars to leave the site at the same time. They're actually spread out depending on what your occupation is or some of your daily habits, whether you're going to leave before 7 o'clock, before sort of the commuter rush hour, or after the commuter rush hour. There's going to be folks that leave between a 2-hour period of the commuter rush hour. What we hone in on is 1 hour during that 7 to 9 a.m. period, and then in the evening for the return trip. Because this is a residential development, the majority of folks will be leaving the property in the morning, going to work, employment, then coming back to the property in the evening. So we look at those 2 periods where the majority of the activity will take place relative to a trip, whether it be a person trip or an automobile trip. So this sort of summarizes, it might be difficult to see, but the numbers are such that we expect about 12 trips, car trips, in the morning peak hour. Less than half of what you would expect if you would for the number of units total. And in the evening, we expect about 15 trips in total. 9 trips would be attributed to an entering movement coming back into the property, and about 6 trips would be attributed to exiting the property. There's also a commercial space that's slated for the first floor. Those will have some traffic associated with it, depending on the exact specific use, but it's really an ancillary type of use. Again, this is a location that will have good access to the transit system, the sidewalks. In the next slide, I'll talk about just how the pedestrian and bicycle accommodations will be promoted for this property. We do look at the operation of the driveway itself when we grade them on a letter scale from A to F, sort of like in school, A being very good operation and F being really poor operation. This kind of falls right in the middle, a level of service C. And again, it's attributed towards the driveway, the activity that's already along Main Street, as well as folks, not everyone's going to turn left out of the driveway. You expect maybe half the folks will turn left out of the driveway that are living there, and half will turn right. So obviously a right is an easier movement to make with less conflict. And these are just some recommendations, and also a transportation demand management plan. So there's a plan in place to really promote pedestrian activity, bicycle activity. There'll be a bicycle repair station on site, include bike pump, rack, and some tools to fix your bike. There'll be, I believe, more bike racks than there are units, residential units in this location. There'll be a warning device for folks that are coming out of it, since it's an underground type structure. There'll be a warning device, so if a car exits the garage, they'll just alert anyone that's walking in front of along the sidewalk. So again, I'll turn it back over, but I think we're going to open it up to questions now.
You want to start on this side of the room and work our way across?
So I'll pick up with a question that I was about to bring up earlier. So we are the property that's right up.
Could you speak up, please?
Oh, certainly.
I can't
Yes,
hear you.
yes. So we're on the property that's directly to the side. I don't know if you have the picture up there where I said some of the fence pieces were down and we put them back up again. So from a very parochial interest.
So you're here?
So we're curious, we've had some issues with our fence coming and going, as you can see from the missing sections. Whether you would consider some kind of like a visual break, like some plantings. You've got some nice plantings in what you described to us, but there's not something between the property your
Yeah.
property and our property, which immediately abuts you.
Yeah.
Right
think-
there.
I think I could speak for Ted and say that we would certainly be happy to do a fence, right?
Yes.
I mean, we
I
could
think
definitely
we
do
have
some
a
screening.
fence, but it's not great, and I suspect the quality of your fence
Yeah.
would
Well, I
be
think that
better
we could
than
probably
ours.
work together, and if we did a new fence, you could probably take down your fence
Yeah.
or something, right? I
We're
mean, that would
happy to
be-
work with you
Yeah.
offline.
Yeah.
We just wanted to
Okay.
raise that as an issue with
Sure.
the heavy winds and the
Yeah.
snow and the snow plows. So
Yeah.
if you wanna work offline,
Yeah.
there's three of
Okay.
the four condo units are here tonight.
So maybe after the meeting, you can introduce yourself to Ted and we'll
That would be
connect.
great.
Yeah.
Okay,
Comment that follows right on this one
yes,
is it's better for maintaining the plantings to have a single fence,
Yeah.
not one here, a few inches, and then another one.
agreed.
Because all kinds of things come up in those few inches, and it's impossible to clear them out. So work together to get one fence along all parts of the property.
And I don't wanna ask too many questions, so I'll just ask one more. We sent on some questions in advance, just that we can answer tonight or offline with you guys. But the second question, you mentioned the insular, or I don't know the technical word of the retail activity. Can you talk more about that? So there's 27 parking places, 34 units, 3 commercial parking places. What kind of activity are you anticipating for the retail use, like times of day?
Yeah. It's likely to be a small office, we think. We don't
Okay.
have a user yet, but I think that's probably best guess right now.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna just do one more question, then I promise to stop. When does the construction begin and when does it end? And are there hours of the day and days of the week that you would sort of bound the noise, construction noise?
Yeah, I don't know the details of that,
We'd
but
like
we
to
would meet
start
all
in
the,
May if we could.
yeah, in terms of,
The season is kind of right.
we have to get our approvals.
Yeah.
We have to do the drawings, so it'd be sometime in the spring would be the start. And then in terms of hours of operation, and I'm sure there's regulations for work that we would have to comply with. And I think these guys are really neighborhood friendly. If there's issues, you can come to them, they're gonna work it out. I'm sure that'll be the
Well,
case.
I'm not so sure about that because the guy that comes and empties the dumpster comes before 6 a.m. often.
Yeah, we don't control that. The current owner of the
it's your-
property,
You're the owner and.
No, we're not.
Not yet, they're not the owners yet.
It's a problem.
so we can speak to the owner and make sure that he complies with that. And, I'm not sure in Watertown what the right time is for that, but certainly when we're the owners, we will comply with those regulations.
Yes, sir.
Second question, I'm an exact owner in the parking lot, and my business has 3 exhaust vents and a window on that lateral wall.
Where are you located?
I'm at 146 and 148, so I'm left
So
of the.
you're here?
Right there,
So you have exhaust literally coming out the side of that,
I do,
right at the property line.
right,
Because we'll have to figure
We're
out
gonna
how
have to solve
to work
that.
together, yeah.
in
Yeah.
the window there.
So hopefully get your contact information tonight and work through that design-wise with the architectural team and make sure we solve that.
Yes.
I have several questions.
All right, then why don't we do this? Why don't we do one question, move across the room and come back, be fair to other people. But go ahead, ask another one and then we'll go ahead.
Well, so for at least 18 years, I lived behind the building on Church Lane. So my property line touches the back of the building.
So where's Church Lane?
I'm behind it. It should be right there,
Right here.
about that gray building just above the city.
This?
Yep.
Okay.
And for 18 years, and it's been my understanding, it's been since the 70s, that the parking lot, the gate that is there for the building as it exists, has to be closed between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. because of noise, because all around the property is residential. This is a huge change from, whoever's going to store 24 at 2 a.m. in the morning being too loud, to adding 34 units, which could have 50 or so residents coming in and out every day, every day and that is more at night. When we're trying to speak, hearing car doors, hearing people on the terraces entertaining, that's a big difference in noise, and I would like to understand how that, if the town is the one imposing the 10 PM to 6 AM, how that is so dramatically gonna change.
Okay, I don't know, I actually don't, yeah, I don't know.
So there's, the requirement to have that gate closed from 10 to 6 had to do with, illicit activities going on, parking lot at night, loitering, drinking, that kind of thing. So it was a public safety matter that was closed. That's why the town required them to stop serving illicit activities.
And will there be anything to keep that from happening? I mean, there's still gonna be a parking lot there. Is it completely gated so that, you know, if the building decided to park, you have to, the gate goes up and you park, but this is commercial space too, so I'm assuming you can just drive it to the parking lot, so the same kids that were hanging out there in the 70s could be hanging out there now.
It's unlikely that's gonna happen because there'll be residents living there and commercial occupants in the space. So there will be people there all the time, and they will be respectful, I would think, of your living in proximity as you will be with them. That's kind of, I don't know, maybe there are problems in the neighborhood, but we don't know of that, other than there being maybe some illicit activities in a parking lot that's empty at night. These spaces will be, for the most part, full at night.
Well, there'll be more than full, because you have more people living there than you have parking spaces. You're
Well-
assuming that 7 units aren't going to have cars.
And that's part of the smart growth regulation because of the downtown. It's interesting that the town did a study, I think, as of this spring it came out, of some of the newer developments, one of the larger one, the Gables, that you'd probably be familiar with on Arsenal Street. And they found, through actual counting, that at night, only 43% of the spaces were used. And that's an attribute to the smart growth of these downtown areas. So most of these parking areas are very reduced as far as the occupancy.
Yeah, but I'm still, I mean, you're gonna have 50 residents living there and 27 spaces for that. And I just don't think that that's realistic.
Actually, we believe that it's more than sufficient.
Yeah, that's what we believe.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of backed up by the figures.
Yeah, I think that the trends for use of parking in cars, with shared parking and this being a TOD, project with available public transportation, that the stress, so to speak, on parking, we don't anticipate that.
Well, I live right beside it and there are 4 units and there are 7 cars for those 4 units. So we live just as close to the public transportation and all of that, and so that's not holding true. And I think it's the same for the Churchill condo people that are, on the side.
I'm embarrassed to say that we have 8 cars for 4 units. And, but I do believe in smart growth, and I think the trend is towards fewer cars. So,
But until that actually happens.
yeah, I mean, that's the direction we all need to go, for sure.
Will
Is fewer
parking be
cars.
assigned to units, or will just some people who have these units understand that they won't have a parking spot?
So as part of the marketing, campaign, that certain units will not have spaces. And we don't anticipate every unit renter, it's a for rent project, to require a space. And if they need a space, they'll have to look elsewhere to do it, but we don't anticipate that. We think we have a surplus of spaces.
So will they be assigned units?
There's nowhere else to look for a spot.
And as I said, we think we have a surplus of spaces, and the data shows that.
So we're gonna try to, we can talk about it as much as we want, but we're gonna be a little orderly and have people raise their hands. Thank you.
I understand your landscapers are here tonight, but I do have some questions that maybe you could answer. Could you go back to the
Sure.
diagram of landscape?
Nidhi may know more about it than I do. Where is it?
select.
Did I pass it?
No. Yeah, there you go.
There it is. So, you mentioned new trees. I think the town has just put in new trees in front of that building.
So I can answer that question. So at the front, there's 3 trees that you see. So the one, the first starting on the left, see the existing tree? That was the new red maple.
Yeah.
That's in very good condition, so that's going to stay. We're gonna protect it, and that's going to stay exactly the way it is. The one in the middle, the bright green squiggly, that's going to be a new tree. That is going to be in keeping with the red maple. And that's going to be a new tree pit, because that today is the driveway.
Yeah.
And the third tree on the right that you see is also a new tree, but today where that tree is, Eric, you can point to it. Actually, you can keep going left. It's like 10 feet to the left. That's where it is today. So we talked to the tree warden, Chris Hayward, and what he said is make sure you take the tree, protect it, and prepare the soil on the right and replant that tree. So the goal is to relocate that tree to the right.
And you're gonna have someone who understands how to successfully
Yes.
make a tree survive. One thing I really approve of, and thank you so much for doing that, is the continuous tree trench.
I knew
Does
you
that
were
go
gonna say
all
that.
along the front there, from the edge of the property to the driveway?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really gonna give those trees a much better chance.
That and the structural soil, so that.
Yeah.
And you're doing
that-
structural
yes,
soil.
Yeah.
yes.
Structural soil not in the tree pit,
No,
not
just
in
a-
the continuous trench, because you don't want structural soil in the continuous trench. You understand that? That's, it should go under the sidewalk. In this trench, you want soil that the tree can actually live on.
Yes.
That's different.
Yep.
Right, so is that what's being done?
Yes.
Structural soil is going under the sidewalk.
Yes.
I think she was talking about strengthening the
Okay.
sidewalk. It's,
Is the sidewalk gonna be permeable pavement, which would also help the trees?
It is not. It's gonna be the town standard.
Because it's the concrete.
So we have to work.
It's
on
really in
that.
the public way, so we're really,
Yeah.
okay. So,
I just want to follow up, just one question about parking, so, as long as we're on the slide.
Yeah.
So so right now, you know, with the store, not Tedeschi's, whatever, that parking lot represents sort of an attractive uses. Here, parking is sort of restricted, so my question is, you know, the building next door also has parking underneath it, and I don't know if
Garage door.
they have a garage door that sort of limits access. So my question is, at night, is there going to be any sort of access control here? Or how do you, you know, in the sense that you don't want people going in there to loiter or hang out, which I think just the fact that it's a closed driveway entrance sort of would discourage that, because it doesn't appear to be a place where people are welcome to just go hang out. But do you have any sort of access control scheme that's going to go on here at night to prevent sort of
We had,
hangers out or
yeah,
loiters?
we had,
Taking those spaces.
So I just a thought about, you know,
we would be open to thinking about it. We had not anticipated that as a problem. And if it was a problem, I think that's a good solution for it, so we would be open to considering it.
So maybe after hours, we would be engaging the party.
Yeah, it's like, in terms of after hours, kind of hard to figure out with, you know, a residential complex. I mean, with an office, it's easy to figure out what's after hours because it empties out at 7 o'clock or 6:30. With a residential complex, I would anticipate that many of those spaces would be full, and it would be kind of conspicuous for someone to go in there when there are people living there, and like someone pulling into your home parking lot. I think you would look out of place. But if this were ever a nuisance, we would definitely address it.
okay, so we're gonna work our way on this side of the room now a little bit. Anybody along this?
Can I
Yes, ma'am.
follow up on the landscaping question?
Sure.
You said there's 20% of the space will be landscaped,
Open space,
open space. How much is currently?
like 0.
Well, you're taking away the strip on the side, between
I don't know.
it's a small strip, but it's still a strip between the parking lot and the Churchill condo association. And there is a strip, there's the wall, and then there is landscaping between the back of the parking lot and the Church Lane condo.
I can say with a surety that we'll have more than that is there now. Yes.
While you're on this drawing, that transformer.
Yeah.
What's the expectations of sound from that? Living at 170, I hear everything that's on top of that building.
Yeah. Well, transformers don't really make noise. I mean, sometimes they hum a little bit, but this is a wall. This is up higher than this,
Okay.
and then so this is kind of screened off.
I think their question would be is where the heating units and all of that, are they going on the roof?
Well, that was a
Yeah, those are on the roof.
separate question.
Right? Yes, sir. I'm
I
sorry.
live 3 houses up on Main Street, and you cannot park in front of my house because we get the overflow from Hamilton Place and also from, what's the other unit? Whitney Towers, right? I cannot park in front of my own house, right? There's people parking now on Green Street because they don't have sufficient parking. We have extra parking now on Chestnut Street, okay? Because you have the school there, and also you have a Catholic TV program on it. Yeah, and most of the people you're talking about, people using bicycles, I have a healthy skepticism about that. Everybody I know, the younger people that moved in my neighborhood have at least 2 cars, okay? So you're gonna have not enough parking space for all the tenants. You're gonna have retail on the first floor. Where are they gonna park? And secondly, they have 2 main concerns, all right? Number one, this doesn't affect you. This is small players as to what's going on in the town. We should have a moratorium on development because it's rampant overdevelopment going on. For the last year and a half, I lived in my house most of my life, all right? I've never seen rats. There's rats running all over the town. I called the town, they did nothing. I had to pay an exterminate $800, and I'm still having rat problems. People on Pittsburgh are having rat problems on Salt and Stall, and this was brought on by construction. That's one of the problems. And secondly, the other one is pollution, all right? A lot of people die every year because of problems connected with heart failure due to pollution. I just put in a brand new deck, all right? And for 3 to 4 weeks, I can get around again. It's white fur. There's so much pollutants and particulates in the air that it turns gray, is ingrained into the wood. I had it twice. Had to use that cleaner, and I couldn't get up. So I'm breathing it in. We certainly don't need any more traffic. We don't need any more rats in the neighborhood. And this is just, small compared to what's going on in the rest of the town. But it affects me personally. If you live up a long pole, it's not going to affect you, but it's affecting me as a resident.
Thank you.
So what are you people going to do about it? What's your answer to the solution about the rats?
Well, I actually think that there's a food use there, old store.
In my opinion, it shouldn't be there. Obviously, I'm a minority of one rat place.
I think that
3-story, 1 flat. 6-story, we don't need more of these abominations that town is what they are. Architecturally ugly.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
I wonder if you would go back to the slide that showed your proposed building and the other one to the right of it.
This one?
So you had one that shows the height of the very
The elevation?
Yeah.
That one.
No.
This one.
Yeah, that one. So this one, I appreciate the putting out there for us all to see. Because once it's clear, this is 10 feet higher than the building next to it. And my question is, I would assume that when that building to the right there was put in, it probably went as high as they could according to the zoning rules. So maybe not, but that's the point of the question. But how is it that this building right next to it is 10 feet higher, an extra level higher? How did that happen?
It's allowed by zoning. It's encouraged by the Watertown design guidelines. So we're following those guidelines. It's not a question for us. We're just going by the regulations.
So just to be clear about what the guideline is it a question of feet or is it a question of levels? Because you could have had the same number of levels and you could have put the parking lot below, like the folks next door did.
It's both. We
So
meet
what is the guideline,
Both.
what is it?
55 feet and 5 stories.
So that's what you're permitted to charge,
55 feet
and 5 stories.
and 5 stories, but why don't we just explain?
So, so zoning, the 30-second explanation. So zoning is a law, is a zoning ordinance. It lays out zoning districts, which is areas of town that are given names, like the two-family zone, single-family zone. This Main Street up to Chestnut Street is in the central business district. So that's the map of zoning. So this building next to it, the other building next to it, all the way down to Watertown Square in the central business district. The zoning ordinance lists acceptable uses in each district, and multifamily office buildings and multifamily housing buildings are allowed in the central business district. Things like concrete plants or auto dealers are not allowed. Also in the zoning ordinance is a table of dimensional criteria. So within each zoning district, they'll say how tall buildings can be, what the side yard setbacks are, what the front yard setbacks are, those dimensional criteria. Since 1937, the central business district has allowed buildings up to a height of 55 feet or 5 stories. So even though this was only built at 45 feet, they could have gone up higher. They chose not to. Just like if you have a house in a two-family zone, somebody could choose to build a single-family cape in the two-family zone, and you're allowed to do that. But the zoning ordinance lists the maximum. So as
And the zoning ordinance, what about the heating?
so those are accepted. So things like
It's also set back. This drawing is a little.
so things like elevator, penthouses, equipment, as long as they're not more than 15 feet above the roof line.
You can see that it's set back from the
So
front.
those are things in the zoning ordinance, it's sort of a mechanical equipment. So that's sort of why is this building? So like just behind it, behind it is the two-family zone. It's on the back side of this. Some of you live there. You can only build two-family houses there. You can't build multi-unit apartment buildings. So like where John and Joan live, that part of Main Street, that's two-family zone. They can only build two-family houses there. So, but up to Chestnut Street you can build up to.
And the zoning regulations address adjacent, the regulations can be different based on the adjacent use. So for example, in the front, where we're next to the commercial use, you're allowed 0 setback. But where the residential are required, you have to have a 10-foot setback. Now, we actually exceed that setback. We're more like 15 feet rather than 10. So we're further away from the property lines against those residential districts. And I think the zoning regulations were very well thought out in that they require the building to step back when you're adjacent to a residential district. So this form is a function of that zoning regulation.
So zoning, Chuck, allows that, requires that you have that step back.
That's the next question I was gonna ask. That's
Residential.
a requirement by zoning, that wasn't an architectural.
That's right. But we're trying to utilize that to make it a pretty thing to be there. Yes, sir.
What's my voice? Can you go back to slide number 17?
17.
Yeah. Right. So I'm sorry about that again. So I'm a resident of this building, and I'm on the 4th floor, and my window is here this way. So right now, I'll show you. This is the view of my bedroom. It's a beautiful view of old town, all up to even residential building, I said something. But right now, after you build your so instead of this view, I will see the brick wall or some windows, people doing something. So what do you think my value for my property would be? I don't know. Well, It's my
They're
concern.
only building in compliance with the regulations. So
I
we
understand, but
can't address your question really, because
it's,
we're staying off the property line greater than the requirement. So you won't, there is a distance here.
what's this?
I don't know the distance of your building from the property line. I'm not.
It's a
Pardon?
minimum of 15 feet to the property
So-
line.
So it would be a total
Instead
of 30.
so
Total
that
of 30 feet.
Instead of bright light, I will see the whole but constant shadow of my unit. It will be dark the whole day. Because sorry, it's big view, big ball here. Go back. And also, if you go back to this slide 17, right? So right now, it's and used to be 7-Eleven.
You're not sick. You're not sick.
No.
Okay.
No worry about it. No worry about it. It's not flu.
Okay.
So my question is, when 7-Eleven was in business, I always hear the cooling unit on the roof. Now the cooling unit will be up there and much more powerful, I assume. So
But they're actually
the-
designed to be much quieter than they used to be.
Yeah,
And
that's what they promised. What they promised when they replaced it.
And up on the roof, it's directing the sound up.
Yeah, but
So the cooling units, can I answer that?
Yeah.
The cooling units for the units are generally a 3 foot by 3 foot box. When it's a commercial, it's a much bigger unit. For residential units for that size, we call them package units. They're much smaller condensing units. So they are not, if noise is your concern, I can tell
It's gonna
you
be quiet.
that is not going to be a concern.
There's 34 of them.
Yeah, but they are not, I mean, I would love to take you to a roof, but they're not supposed to be noisy because they are much less powerful than what it needs for a retail commercial.
Yes.
The fans, they don't have those, the capacity is very slow.
We have a residential unit, it sounds like what you're talking about. If the windows are open and for whatever reason, you can hear it. So that's one, if it's 34,
You're not having 34 in that building. You're having one big unit.
no,
They'll be
she's
smaller
saying that
units.
there's a separate unit for each building,
Yes.
right? Each apartment.
Each apartment gets
On the
separate,
roof?
so we gang them on the roof.
Okay, there'll be 34 units on the roof.
So one additional thing is because he's on the 4th floor and there's a 5-story building, the noise is, you're more impacted by the noise if the noise is down below you because the noise goes up. The noise doesn't go down, the noise always travels up. So if he is lower than the source of the noise in general.
but my concern is more about the
So you
the
hear
view
less,
of
and
my
you'll see
apartment
less,
will
too.
be brick wall.
Can I see?
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, so we're going to try to be orderly. We're going to try not to, no problem, but we try not to
So,
scream out. We're going to, thank you, sir. Yes.
Who or what is the proposed tenant?
We don't have a proposed tenant for the commercial space at this point. We anticipate a small commercial office.
Yes, you've been very quiet.
I know you can't really answer it, but we've had a lot of developments come up in the town in the last couple of years with a lot of proposed mixed-use space with like tenant, retail spaces, ground level, and the vast majority are not occupied. And I just feel like it's kind of like, I feel like we got like tricked. Like, you take a retail space or whatever, and you put this giant apartment, condo, whatever complex, and you say these businesses. And there's like a boxing gym. You know what I mean? So like, I just feel like it's, I don't know what the issue is, but it makes me very nervous because I feel like there's not going to be anything in that space. And I know that doesn't make a difference to anyone, but I just feel like as people that live here and we have to drive and sit in the traffic and do whatever, there's nothing that's, it needs retail spaces.
I mean, I think these guys, they don't want it to be sitting empty.
I'm sure they don't, I'm
Yeah.
sure the other people don't either, but that doesn't negate the fact that they're all empty.
Yeah. Well, this is only 1,100 square feet, so it shouldn't be too hard to.
There's a retail space right on the corner where there's a barber shop. It's literally been empty for like 4 years. I mean, and it's a tiny space. Yeah, I mean, so.
There's now a lease on that.
4 years.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's just a comment.
All right, Bob hasn't asked this question.
Can you show the slide where it's manufactured?
Sure.
Slide on, yeah, well, the slide would be better. My question is this: maybe you could slide the top floor back over the terrace, and put the terrace on the front, which would decrease your height, which is what the guidelines do suggest. Is as you go up, you do sit back to the top. Zoning doesn't mention that, but the guidelines do. Now I realize that that's a code issue, is why you've done the terracing at the rear. My question is, why don't you go for a variance on that issue, because the gain at the front might be offset the loss of the sloping rear. And I was curious whether that didn't come up in any of the development, any of the earlier meetings with that.
Has not come up. We can talk about it.
Suggested that.
I'm sorry, as the person who's gonna be looking at that, I don't want that any closer.
At the Board of Appeals, you could complain about that? But the
I
Thank you.
think designed it this way, I don't think they need to change it when they wanna get a variance.
All right, you two can talk afterwards in the hall. So we're gonna go back to this side of the room since we.
My other point is,
I'm
are the
sorry.
terraces the open space?
I'm sorry.
Are the terraces the requirement for your open space?
Yes.
So that's how you're getting this open space with these upper floor. Is it open space? Always open space?
It's not required to be. Okay, so we're gonna please go orderly from this side to the.
Eric, I think she was the last row, I think you were raising your hand.
Is there somebody in the back?
Yeah, well, I wanna know, do any of you live in Watertown?
I do not.
None of you do, right? So you don't have to drive here every day. Drive through Watertown. Pleasant Street, they were gonna all be residential, and no, they weren't gonna have cars be, they'd be set back, and nobody was gonna have a car, they were gonna be all bikes. There aren't that many bikes in Watertown. I drove on North Beacon Street. The traffic went from the bridge in Brighton to Perkins School. Not one bike was seen on that road, and they made it one lane. You're building more and cutting down traffic. You can't do that. There's 34 units and no spaces for all the units. They're gonna have, most of the units are gonna have 2 cars. Where are their guests gonna park?
Thank you.
And they're rental units too, right? Yeah.
That was actually my question, are they rental units or they are rental units?
Yes.
And you had said you were hoping to start construction in the spring, you don't own it yet, but there will be a property transfer. How many months does it take? I'm just curious, how long?
This might take 8 or 10 months. I think.
Okay, and then just picking up on the plat issue, is there anything you guys can do to help those of us who are abutting you to help maintain, keep the rats at bay? Is that something I should
I think
be
this is going to
concerned
reduce rats because you're going to get rid of the food use there, and we're cleaning up the whole.
There's been food use there for a long time. Rats have never been a problem. If anything, it was squirrels getting stuff out of the dumpster.
So I don't know. I mean, I know this. It's a nasty site. It's a brownfield site. It's going to be cleaned up. We're going to fix the stormwater so that it's recharged into the earth. We're going to create a building that is well designed, well engineered, better for the environment than what's there. That's, I think so. In terms of rats, I think we're going to be in better shape. Yes.
My comment is about your open space and your trees. Your open space, is it, parking is considered open space too? No? Well, anyway, your trees, you've got those small carpinus trees, they don't get big. In order to address global warming and urban heat island, you need big trees, oaks and elms, and even your red maples out front. The cultivated varieties on a big street, they don't get big, but oak trees will. So what I'm suggesting is replace that row of carpinus with just 2 red oaks or similar trees, elms, and addressing the poor guy's concern with losing his view in the space between the existing building on the west side and your new building. How about a row of blight-resistant elms? They'll grow up and tall, and they will give some privacy. Don't go for these little small trees. Fewer but large growing trees.
We'll talk to our landscape architect about some of your ideas. Yeah.
Thank you, please do.
Who's the landscape architect?
Kate Hornchuk, out of Arlington.
What is it?
Kate Hornchuk. She's based in Arlington.
So I basically want to second what Jeannie said very enthusiastically. I also want to say, if you go back to I think it was slide 17. Can we do that? Actually, no, sorry. Forgive me. There was one slide that showed the east wall of this building next door to your building. Could we go to that slide? Maybe it was 9.
Oh, you mean the distance? This one?
That one. I have to say, you guys, you're showing that the side of his building fully lit with sunshine. You just shouldn't do that.
We
It's
hadn't
not
even thought of
funny.
it. It was just a photograph that we had.
I don't think-
I swear we're not trying to fool anybody. That's just not who we are. It just happened to be the drawing.
Well,
I
correct
took
it,
that,
please,
I took
on
that
your next
picture.
edition.
I took that picture in the afternoon,
Yeah.
and the sun is behind this building, so it was right on me.
Uh-huh.
So the glare is actually behind the building.
Probably correct,
Because this is north
bouncing.
facing, so this was your, I mean, you can see it in the neighboring building, so the
Okay,
south
so in
is
other
farther
words,
back.
Jeannie's Elms could have a really good chance. I have another question. What is behind the wood screen with the concrete planter? I really like the wood screen.
The
with the concrete-
Transformer.
Mhm. So there will be some sound from that transformer. Is that run the whole distance, or
No, it's just a box.
it's just one box? Okay.
And trees there and shrubs will help disperse the noise.
Agreed. Yes.
So can you go back to, I think it's 11? It shows the back of the building. Because I have some questions about the difference in the way the brick is used on the front of the building as opposed to the back. You said, I think, something similar to that the brick is used to soften it into the residential space. If you notice, all of the space that touches residential, because you can see the roofs of the Churchill Lane, the Churchill Street people right there, and then the back where the terraces are is Church Lane where I am. All of that is metal. Right now, everything I see out of the windows in ours is brick. It's town hall is brick. It's the building beside is brick. You can see the building from the back, but you can see St. Pat's. What I'm going to see now is metal.
No, that's actually not metal. That's fiber cement. It's
Okay,
so it's a detailed. It's kind of a residential scale material.
Okay.
The brick on the front is an urban scale material. So we're trying to actually sensitively transition into the residential side.
But that's not what any of the that's not what's. That's
Yeah, we
not-
probably need
there's
to
no
show
other
that-
residential material in the area like that. There's brick.
Well, it's
There's
not really
that
reading
material.
that way, but this is clapboard in here, and this is trim. So it's kind of a residential material used in a kind of a contemporary way.
So the like there, that's fiber cement. That's like it's like clapboard.
Yeah.
It's made out of.
This is
fiber
clapboard,
cement.
and this is panels. So it's a combination of kind of clapboard, lap siding and trim. So it has a residential scale material.
So by the way, this building that she was talking about earlier is clapboard.
Yeah.
On the
It's
right.
vinyl siding,
Yours is vinyl.
honest.
We're moving across the room. I'm sorry, we're gonna come back. We're moving. I'm going clockwise. Yes.
I think what everyone's worried about, rat problem.
Yeah.
Just go back to when you were a kid and you did the anthill farm. It scatters. Same thing with the rats. You can't just place that building on top of concrete.
Oh, you're saying during construction?
Right. There's gonna
I
be,
see.
and that's when they're all gonna run.
I
There's
see.
gonna be new water lines run. We get all that, but I think that's the issue. It's
I
just
see.
gonna-
Yeah. Well, we should
Well,
talk.
we'll have pest control
Yeah,
there.
we're gonna have
So-
to. We should look at how to mitigate that. No question. That's 100%
Yeah.
reasonable.
The town didn't help out on that. We called the town, there were no assistance at all.
Well, I think the private developer is willing to do
$800
pest
for the
control
spring.
during construction.
Yeah.
The town also will require that there be pest control on the site, that there be a construction management plan.
They haven't done so in the
They answer
past.
questions,
The evidence is there for itself.
but they will on this one, so there's pretty strict requirements as to what goes into place beforehand and throughout the construction period. Also by the construction management plan, the neighbors that are interested will receive contact information as to who to speak to at the development.
No, I hope so.
My friend in the tie-dye shirt.
Construction was quarter of a mile away, and this is right next door to my house.
Is that
At least people
building
going to live there.
at level with 170, or is it more forward? It's hard to tell.
It's in line with the building next to it.
Okay, so it feels very imposing when you look at that frontal shot compared to the buildings next to it, especially compared to the little retail. It's very dominant. But one thing I wanted to say is, right now, there's a lot of handicap vans coming in and out of there because of the cerebral palsy, but they're also for Beaverbrook. And so you might want to consider how that affects traffic in and out of that location when you have these vans coming in. We have them blocking the garage.
We're not going to have vans anymore after.
Yeah, they won't be there.
They're not going to be on the first floor?
Yeah, they're not.
Oh,
No,
No,
the front move, there's gonna be lower traffic, at the back is still there, the daycare in the back.
oh, okay.
Okay, the woman in the back.
Looking at, 17 again. Just looking at that view, that building's there, and then your building, and this isn't really your issue, but just looking down, thinking in the future, all those buildings that can go up 5 stories, and that close to the street, one thing that they're doing now on Pleasant Street is making it like a canyon. Everything is right up close to the street. People turning into park, you have to almost come to a complete stop for them to get into the driveway so they can park in there. It causes more of a traffic jam, and just the look of the street, just seeing that going forward, is just gonna be like a canyon, like Pleasant Street has now. It's just not a good design.
The man with the mustache. The man with the mustache.
Is that a real one?
Don't ask how many decades. So this is an open forum, so for what it's worth, I don't know, I want to just give a personal opinion. And everybody's got their opinion about aesthetics, all the rest, so you're going to have to hear mine. I'll start by saying that this is a really prominent location here in Watertown Square, and you're sensitive to that. And I think you try to think about designing something that kind of fits into that aesthetic. My feeling is, as I look at the design in the exterior front here, this reads office building. That's what I thought it was. I was actually surprised when I got here and heard that this is residential. And I think that it reads like a kind of a bland residential, bland office building kind of design. And to me, there's an opportunity here to do something different, something, dare I even say, kind of exciting, that would indicate that this is residential and doesn't just look like another office building. And I'm interested that you soften the backside, what you were just saying, with some, apparently some wooden clapper that's going to be more along the residential. So I just put that out there. This is one reaction from one guy who happens to be a church. So I think it's an unfortunate choice of aesthetic designs for this prominent location.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
I'm
No, it's hard.
gonna just, also give my opinion. I'm agreeing with what you said, and it feels like a building on stilts that's inviting night activity. How could you prohibit it from people from kind of wandering parking underneath there and. you know,
As Ted mentioned, if it became a problem, they would definitely be willing, as Ted mentioned, he'd definitely be willing to gate it off if it was a problem.
My vote would be to take it down a story and put the parking underneath. And so we don't have this, it looks hulking and I agree, it's ugly. It's not a beautiful building. And the back is gonna be, no, I don't like it, I'm just telling you.
It's okay, I've been around,
And the back might be nice, but no one's gonna see that except us neighbors and we'll hear all the partying going on the terraces.
Thank you, Bob.
Got 2 points. One is, it's a special permit, not as of right law. Is that what the code requires?
It's a special permit.
For all housing?
Right, for anything over.
All the housing.
Yeah.
Multi. The second question is, we're going to opinions. I'm an architect, they've given you enough time in the past. I think it's a big improvement over ours. I think it's actually.
Yes.
Thank you. Are we getting, now, you had a question, sorry,
Thank
make
you.
you wait.
You mentioned, rebuilding existing walls.
Yeah.
So I live at 170 Main Street next door, and we have a wall there. Is that our wall, or is that your wall? Is that your wall? Is that a
Yeah.
wall that you would be tearing down?
I
and
don't
rebuilding?
know. What I do know is anything on our property, we want to make sure that it's rebuilt to be beautiful and structurally sound. I don't know, we haven't gotten into those
Look at the
details.
pictures there. It looks like there's no wall there at all
Yeah.
in your pictures. So is that your intention to tear down that wall?
Oh, yeah.
There's a wall there.
It does.
Our intention is to take away anything that's not performing correctly, or we may have to leave it and shore against it in some manner, because it might be harder to take it down and then rebuild.
So you need to work with our condo association if you were planning to
Yeah.
tearing down a wall that we own.
Well,
right?
certainly we couldn't do any work not on our site without permission. I assure you, we'll work with you to make sure it's, again, safe, structurally sound, and visually pleasing.
Since I'm
So we're
also one
still
of those people who's gonna be losing their view, and I'm on the 3rd floor, so I'm really gonna be losing my view. I'm hoping that you will work with us to enhance our experience, because right
Absolutely.
now, yes, we're gonna lose our view and lose some property value.
Yes.
Just wondering, is this gonna be like a 24-hour, like, security or maintenance that is, in the building? Like,
No,
24
we
hours
won't have a
security.
doorman there. No, it's too small for
Oh,
that.
you mean like a doorman?
But we'll have security cameras and there'll be some way of kind of monitoring, so to speak, what's going on that remotely.
Yes.
I guess, talking about rebuilding walls, there's currently a stone wall in the back.
I'm sorry?
There's currently a stone wall in the back.
Yeah,
Is that wall going to be torn down and rebuilt?
I don't know.
Because there are a lot of trees on our property
Yeah.
line, and the removal of
Right.
that wall will definitely,
Right, we don't want that to happen.
and we've already lost some trees back there, and
We're gonna work to make sure that doesn't happen. Anybody on this side of the room? I feel like we might almost be done. Yes, sir.
Go back to this open space slide.
Am I going the wrong direction?
Have you considered just 180-degree this and push back? So
That would
this
not
will
be-
be Main Street. This is will be.
That would not be in compliance.
Why not?
It wouldn't meet the zoning regulations. Then describe that there's a table, certain things we have to comply with, that wouldn't comply.
It would be much nicer because the building will be here. Your building here will be here.
Thank you. Yes, oh, sorry.
I wanted to say that I genuinely appreciate that you expressed willingness tonight throughout this meeting to work with the abutters on the fences and the walls and so on. Is there a particular person or that we designated? It would be.
Let's start off, we'll try to do it
Well,
together.
afterwards we
okay?
can exchange
Yeah,
the
of course,
contact
and we'll
info.
engage
We'd be happy to
PCA,
work
the
with you.
architectural firm, we can make sure we end up with a fence that you like and that we like and.
And that you, absolutely, so we just wanted to
long-lasting.
reach out and get a personal
Right.
face, name, phone number for
Right.
when we all disband.
Papa back here,
Okay.
is that, had his hand up, right?
Yeah, so I guess some people talk about potential pollution and noise on the parking lot. So I'm just wondering, is there gonna be a no idling above 3 minutes rule or something like that? Because, it's a problem in our garage. We have 50 units, there's almost 25 spots, first of all. And people want more spots.
I mean, I think we could put a sign up. This is not an enclosed garage. This is actually open on all sides.
Yeah, but it goes up like to the neighborhood.
Well, I 100% agree. I hate when people idle for no reason. Okay, we're working our way across the room. Yes.
So I was a little startled to hear that the terraces are considered open space. I mean, to my eye, they look like hardscape with a couple bushes. And I wonder if you could please clarify what makes those open space in the parking lot not open space.
So I'd have to read the regs, but as I recall, it doesn't have to be permeable. It's space that pedestrians are utilizing for gathering and so forth. So where areas where cars are parked is not gathering space or amenity space. That's roughly paraphrasing the definition. So we did the arsenal, and then we had calculations for all that, and this meets the regulations. Yes.
Since we're on this picture, what kind of lighting is there going to be for the parking?
Good question. We haven't designed it yet, but there are dark skies requirements in Watertown, and we do that anyway as a matter of course in terms of the way our firm designs. So all there'll be zero cutoff.
There is a right on the corner between Church Lane and Church Hill where there is a telephone pole with a street spotlight on it that shines into all of our units. If that can be adjusted, that would.
It's in the public way or on this property.
On the corner of all.
I don't think it's on their property, so they couldn't do anything about it.
It's on our property.
Yeah, if it's not on our property, then you have to go to the town hall.
The store 24 has the ability to turn it on and off.
I think it's a in-star floodlight on a telephone pole.
Yeah, but there's somehow that when store 24 was there, every now and then it would turn off for months at a time. And then it would turn
And I
back
think
on.
it's an in-star floodlight that's lighting up the parking lot facing
Yeah.
the building. So that I believe.
It's on this property.
It's on a pole that I think is really right on the corner.
I think, Bill, I think it's sort of on a utility pole that's between the properties. I gotta say, perhaps it's like here,
Right, yeah. It's like-
and it's on the pole, and it's one of the, you can rent for so many bucks a month, rent star, facing there, but since Store 24, Tedeschi's is going away, I assume you'll contact
Yeah.
Instar and have them remove
That'll
that
come,
floodlight.
yeah, that'll come. Okay. Thank you for your comments. You guys have been really great. We can stay, talk one-on-one if you like.
So if I could just make some comments, so first of all, those of you who got the notice, there should have been an email address for the architect on it. Is that correct?
Well, there was a contact listed, I think the.
I think my name was listed in the.
So what I would say is particularly the people, like the homeowners association for the condominium next door, should definitely get in contact with the developer here, to make sure things are right. The other people who live around it, you want to be able to speak directly with the developer to address your issues related to your property. That is important to do. Number one. Number two, we had heard some concerns, stuff about parking, the security, about how to, deal with this parking. I'm hoping that you take those away and come up with some ideas, signage, whatever we need to do to sort of prevent problems from occurring. There's the next step is the developer is going to submit an application to the Department of Community Development and Planning, and it'll go to the Planning Board for a public hearing. You can submit your comments in writing to be part of the public record directly to the Planning Board, and you can go and speak on the record and raise the concerns. And then the same thing will happen when they'll do a advisory recommendation, then it goes to the zoning board of appeals, which is sort of an administrative law panel. They will, the special permit process, there's 10 criteria that they have to consider, and it's sort of technical matters. I will tell you, no project gets approved in Watertown without 10 or 20 conditions being assigned as part of the special permit. So whether it's trash pickup, somebody raised that, they may put a condition that no trash pickup before 7 a.m. So you don't get the 5 a.m. trash pickup. They may put something in about, putting in a security gate along the parking street. They may, depending on what they hear from the public, they may attach conditions to the approval. So you have two other opportunities. You have three opportunities. One, you can talk directly with the developer to work out your issues with your concerns. Number two, planning board, hearing. And then number three is the zoning board of appeals, public hearing and special permit. So there is a process that is followed, but it is all constrained by what the law says. So there's some things that, people may ask the developer to do, and they have the right to do it. And there's something, and I will tell you this, the developer will not be allowed to bring any proposal forward that does not comply 100% with the existing law. So that is understood.
Will we be notified when these meetings happen? When you guys notified us about
The direct abutters, and if you're a renter, you're not going to get noticed because the notices go, Steve, what's it, 300 foot around?
Abutters to abutters within 300 feet.
So to abutters to abutters, but the notice goes to the property owner of record. So if you're a renter, it's going to go to your landlord. So, but it'll be, so sign up for, if you not already sign up for Notify Me on the town website, you sign up for that, you get an email from the town, and it'll be covered in the new, so just keep your eye out for it. So that's the best way to do it.
We would expect planning board hearing to be sometime in December. Probably the second week in December, assuming it's filed in November.
And when does the land transfer, property transfer happen?
Until after we get our permits.
So, and I just, and I will also say, the vast majority of projects do get approved because the developers will agree to whatever conditions the planning board, the zoning board impose on them. Occasionally that doesn't happen, and I would say 20% of projects don't get approved for one reason or another. So,
but they also, they say, the conditions are usually reasonable. Like they don't have unreasonable conditions.
Right, because you got to understand, it is a process in law, and the zoning board of appeals decision can be appealed to the land court. So that is, the owner always has that ability, and so it is a sort of approving this is sort of an administrative law process. So just as you understand that process. So that's, you got avenues here, and if you're interested, get a business card so you can communicate directly. And if you want to send it once it's officially submitted to the planning board, you can also submit your comments in writing. So thank you everyone for coming. Bob had it.
I was wondering when you'd be better off to send your comments to the planning department, since they write the report that goes to the planning board.
Yes. So Steve, how does it?
Steve doesn't want to hear that.
Your comments to who actually should they go to Ingrid?
Send it to the planning department. You can send it to me, Stephen Goon.
Okay, sure. So if you go on the website, it'll say who, and it goes to both the planning board and zoning board members as well as the staff members.